Hello and welcome to another episode of Firearms Insider, Gun and Gear Review Podcast. This is episode 153. On this show, we showcase gun reviews, gear, and anything else that gun enthusiasts may be looking for. We strive to evaluate products from an unbiased and honest perspective. I'm your host, Ryan Cross from the Firearms Radio Network, your source broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This week, we do have a special guest. We got Matt returning, and Matt's from the Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns podcast. How's it going, Matt?
Hello.
And then we've also got Tony's back in the house, along with Rob and Chad. So how's everyone doing?
Phenomenal.
I'm here.
And as long as you're here, it don't matter where here is, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think I'm here too. I think that's about it.
Sweet. So if you guys remember, Matt, he reviewed the was the FNX Tactical 45 last time you were here.
The FNX 45 Tactical.
So it's great to have you on again, and you've got a review for us today. I'm very excited for that. My next purchase in the optic world kind of hinges on your review, because I know you've steered me toward avoiding old technology with a certain micro red dot. So I'm looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are on that. And this week I'm reviewing a trail camera, since hunting season is upon us. So I've got a Bushnell camera to talk about this week. And then we also have a pretty sweet version of the Chris Vector to talk about too later on in the 10 millimeter flavor. So first off, let's talk about what we all did in guns this week, and we'll start with Matt.
Well, honestly, I didn't do much in guns except find the holy grail of a Chris Vector I wish it was a Chris Vector. Sorry. Kel-Tuck Sub 2000 in 9mm running off Glock mags.
Gen 1 or Gen 2?
Gen 2.
Nice.
Somebody caught a unicorn.
I've had my unicorn for about 6 months. What's the big deal?
You live in Florida.
And it sounds
No, I bought it
nasty
in
when you say
Carolina.
it. And it sounds nasty when you say it, all right? I just don't want to hear about you, the unicorn, midgets, nothing. You filthy. Mute your mic, dirty man.
All right. So did you pick up this Sub 2K?
Oh, definitely. I wasn't planning on it. I just walked in, I see one on the shelf. I'm like, is that Glock? Yeah, I'm buying it.
I don't think anyone ever plans on buying one. They walk into a shop, they see on the shelf, and it's just that impulse. Well, if I don't buy it, the guy behind me will buy it.
I was actually surprised because they actually had more than one of them in that configuration sitting in shop. I'm just kind of like, whoa, that's amazing. I've been looking for one for 4 years.
Nice.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
got to be funny. You know, Kel-Tec makes money because somebody walks in, they sees that, and they go, kids needs braces or get a Kel-Tec, Sub 2000. Hey, look, Bucktooth Barney, you're just going to have to live with that overbite, kid. Daddy needs to get this.
I'm kind of wishing to see the KSG go back down to the original MSRP of about $800, and the shops were able to buy them at $400 at that time.
Really?
Yeah, that's the original MSRP of the KSG.
Oh,
They
you mean
were-
KSG? Oh, they're on sale right now at Palmetto State Armory
Yeah.
for about $500, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I've seen a bunch of sale flyers on PSA.
Yeah, they got them right now.
Yeah, a couple gun stores in North Carolina even have them for about $750, $780.
I mean,
If
they've
only I
got-
didn't have a local manufacturer making a semi-auto 12 gauge that had me tempted in the bullpup format.
What is that?
who's that?
It's Jarred Inc. It's a place one of my friends actually works for. They showed it off at the Manicore Arms bullpup shoot. Surprisingly, nobody's actually even talked about it yet.
Wow.
We've talked about the Jarred.
Yeah, that was
just one time.
Yeah, that would have been their 9mm.
Yeah.
The second generation of that's actually coming out soon too.
Ooh.
Granted, the MSRP is about the same, but they're calling it the J68 instead of the 67, and it has much more internal capacity. And now that Jarred is a Class 3 manufacturer, they can start building them integrally suppressed. They haven't had machine time to do it yet, but that's going to be on the way eventually. if me and my friend have anything to say about it, and the owner kind of agrees.
Nice.
Well, that'll be
Nice.
interesting. So what about you, Tony? Did you get any trigger time last week?
In the last week,
In the last 2 weeks?
Last 2 weeks, yes. I took my 4.25 inch Ruger SR22 out. I don't know about you guys, but I listen to Michael Bain on Downrange Radio, and he's doing this whole thing. He's been talking about headshots at 25, body shots at 50 yards with your concealed carry piece. So I took my Glock out and crapped the bed with it. I couldn't hit anything at 50 with that Glock. But I've shot, a lot of other my pistols out to that range. So I took my SR22 out and did it. IPSC target, body shots, easy. And then I did headshots at 25 and posted some photos up on Simon Says Train on Instagram. So it's just myself and that Glock does not get along. And just nothing about that Glock has been good. My Glock 19 has worked out for me at all. So I'm sending it to have some work done by a friend of mine who helps support my shoots. He told me he'd help me out. So we'll see what comes about it, because that Glock has the worst trigger of any firearm I own.
Wow. What about you, Rob?
I did a little bit of shooting, but this past week has been consumed by this wonderful hurricane that's out in the Gulf of Mexico headed my way. It is insane around here right now. Everybody trying to get last-minute preparations, buy the last bit of gas at the gas stations, and clean out the grocery stores of all the water and staple foods that they have. So
Are you going to be all right?
Oh, I'm going to be fine. I'm about 10 miles inland. I'm on the west side of 95. So unfortunately, Tony, you still will have to have me on the these podcasts going forward. You're not going to get away from me that easy. You're not going to get away from me that easy.
Okay, man. No, I was worried about your guest in the closet. The water might be over their heads.
What, you're afraid they'll float away?
Nice. How about you, Chad?
Let's see. I actually went to the range on Sunday. I took a couple rifles out, but I took my subgun because I'd mounted it's a Sturka red dot on it that they sent me for review. So I figured that was sticking it on that was probably a good choice to test it out. And so I wasted some ammo at it's, and that was about it. Took some pictures with my phone through the scope they sent me, and had some fun. That was about it.
Cool. Well, I've been working on some new patches and stuff for Patriot Patch Co. As far as gun stuff, I'm just waiting on a handguard right now. I ordered from Optics Planet. I wasn't really happy with my I wanted a short handguard for my 9mm SBR, so I went with the 5.5 inch Odin Works handguard, and the diameter of it was a little thin. And when I tried to equip all the rails and then have the suppressor inside, they kind of intersected each other. So either I had to go without the suppressor or go without the rail pieces. So I sent it back, and then I'm getting a Seekins Precision 7-inch. So it'll be an extra inch and a half long. And it's M-Lock instead of Keymod, which I experimented with Keymod. I gave it a fair shake. I don't like it. That's why I sent you a free rail section, Chad, because I just wanted to be done with it. I don't want any Keymod in my house anymore. So M-Lock all the way, baby. And so I'm getting an M-Lock handguard in. It's 1.8 inside diameter, so that should give me plenty of room for my suppressor and the M-Lock rail pieces. I know that the screws kind of protrude inside more than Keymod does, but either way, it should work out pretty well. So I'm waiting for that. Right now I have a Yankee Hill free float tube on my 9mm just so it has a barrel nut and a handguard to hold the barrel to the receiver, and it's the exact length of the suppressor added onto the barrel. So it looks like just a giant tube. It looks like I tried to prototype a cannon, just because it's just all handguard and then nothing sticking out past it. But I'm not going to shoot in that configuration. I'm just going to wait for my my handguard to come in. I'm probably in the next week or so. It was kind of a order. They ship it like after it's ordered, like 15 to 26 days, something ridiculous like that. I think it's just made to order, so waiting for that to come in, and in the meantime, just trying to get more reviews pumped out for you guys. On trying to get a new bow also, because I don't think I'm gonna make it for this season, but next season I want to actually do archery instead of modern firearms. So trying to get a Hoyt, maybe like a Maxis 35. I'm working on that right now. And so that's it for me. On to the announcements. Bandwidth sponsor for this podcast is Patriot Patch Co. Jake and me running the show, and I'm making cool content, and Jake's the one that's fulfilling it and shipping it and all that. So not only do we have new patches added to the catalog on the new website, we have the camping patch, which is a sniper rifle sticking out of a little wall tent. So if you play video games and you're familiar with the legitimate gaming strategy that is camping, instead of running around getting shot around the corners, you can just shoot people as they get in your field of view. So we've got that. We've also got modern musket in a black and green color instead of white and blue like we had before. And then we also have the Patches Against Humanity, which is kind of a spoof on Cards Against Humanity. What ended my last relationship is the black card, and the white card is an AK-47. But we do have something brand new. We have the Patch of the Month Club, which is starting this month for October. So what this is you pay $15 a month. It's going to be set up to be a reoccurring billing, and every month you get a exclusive patch that nobody else can get, designed by me, and you also get that that design as a matching sticker as well. So instead of like $12.87 for a patch and between $4 and $6 for a sticker, you're getting it all for the low price of $15. And every month it's a new patch and a new sticker, and it just keeps getting mailed to your door. It's free shipping. Like I said, it's exclusive. Nobody will be able to buy this from our catalog or from any of our other sources. So if you're the kind of guy that collects morale patches and really likes the idea of having something exclusive and rare that all your other buddies are going to be jealous and not be able to get it themselves, this is the deal for you. So the first one for October, this is my safe space, and this is a 3x3 patch. It is 3D PVC vinyl, and it is a open gun safe with guns hanging on the wall, guns on the inside, and ammo boxes, ammo cans, and even a grenade on the top shelf. So basically spoofing on the whole like hipsters these days. They need a safe space to feel safe and gather their thoughts when the outside world, the harsh realities are just too much for them to handle. Well, we have a safe space too. It just happens to have a 45-minute fire rating, and it stores all the weapons and ammunition that we could possibly want to feel safe. So kind of a very entertaining concept. So that's available for the month of October. If you wait too long, you will not be able to get it, and we will move on in November to the next patch, which will probably be Thanksgiving themed. And then December will be a Christmas-themed patch. And that'll be the only Christmas-themed patch that we do this year, and so on and so forth. So this is a very limited window. You only have 1 month to get these designs before they go away. We also have the listener support program for the Firearms Radio Network. So you can go to firearmsradio.tv and pledge to any one of your favorite podcasts going on to the pledge page. So you could give us money, you can give any one of your other favorite podcasts money, and that money goes to keep the podcast up and running. For this one particularly, it goes toward new product reviews, so we can go out and purchase products that we want to test out and try and really give an unbiased review. You can also support all the other shows with one pledge if you just pledge the Firearms Radio Network as a whole. And then Black Bag Resources, Sean's not here, but he wanted to give you guys a 10% off coupon code for his website in honor of the National Preparedness Month. The code "Don't Get It Twisted," all one word, gets you 10% off anything in the store in the survival category, and it expires on the 11th of this month. So as of now, you got a week, and then he'll probably do a new one following that. Last announcement is to check out the new Gun Collective store at store.theguncollective.com, formerly known as tgcgear.com. They both forward to the same place. So we've got unique stuff that I've made for the Gun Collective and Patriot patches for filling. So keychains, patches, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve shirts. Not only do you get awesome TGC gear, but every $5 you spend gets you an entry to win a really nice rifle and a hunting trip with John himself. So the rifle is going to be in the value range of about $3,000. It's going to be a really nice rifle, once in a lifetime win, and then about a $1,500 hog hunting trip, I believe. I'm not quite sure if he got that nailed down yet. So go on over to store.theguncollective.com and buy all the goodies you want, and hopefully you'll be able to win those awesome prizes. All right, them's the announcements. Now we're going to get into the main topic, and Matt's going to start us off with his review of the Trijicon RMR.
That's right. Now, slide-mounted gun docks. This entire concept, I tried it out about a year ago, and I found this concept very interesting. I have found since using them for about 9 months now, a little more, that all in all, for my competition, I am faster, I am more accurate, and I'm higher in the standings just because it has made me a more effective shooter. I actually, using the one that I'm reviewing today, I went through Mag 40 and took top shot. Sadly, I was about, I think, 2 points off of getting money off of Masada U, but that was my mistake. So, for this review, I'm actually taking a look at the Trijicon RMR dual illumination. This is going to be a green dot 9 MOA. That means at 100 yards, the dot covers 9 inches. Some people say that's too much. Some people say it's too little. Honestly, I went for the larger size because you want as much light as you can possibly manage to be able to pick up the dot, and it allows a faster acquisition than, say, a smaller dot. I have played with a 6 MOA, a 3 MOA, and a 7 MOA, I believe is what it is. So the larger the dot helps you pick it up better. Now, one thing, if you're going to use a Trijicon RMR on a Glock MOS platform, you need to go to Trijicon and buy a specialty kit for about $20 plus whatever it costs them to ship it to you. This kit comes with a thin sheet of metal that goes over top the adapter plate that comes from Glock and 2 specialty screws. The 2 screws that come with the Trijicon sight when you buy it will not work on the Glock platform. They're too long. And the ones that come with the Glock will not work for this. I found out the hard way about 700 rounds through. The sight flew off the gun. Completely stripped the screws. So nobody really talks about it, but that is something you need to be aware of if you plan on using a Trijicon RMR on a Glock 19 or 17 or any of the other MOS platforms. Now, when you're looking at one of these red dots or green dots in this case, when you move the gun slightly, and I'll have a link that we can toss in the review over on my YouTube channel, LFT Research, so you can actually see what I'm talking about. But any slight movement in the gun is amplified into the red dot, so you can easily see how every slight modification moves the dot back and forth. When you can barely see a movement with the irons, you can definitely see the movement with the green dot. So that is a huge improvement, and that makes it a lot better. Now, this model, dual illumination, that means no batteries to change, and since it's using tritium for part of the illumination and fiber optic for the other, as long as you have ambient light, you have a great, nice bright dot as long as there's good amount of ambient light. And if there's not, you go over to the tritium, which tritium has a half-life of 13 years. So basically, you can plan on 13 years from manufacture, you're still going to maintain more or less the same brightness. And after that 13-year point, it has half the brightness on the tritium, which I would say pretty much change you out at that point. But if you want something to put on a carry gun that you can use for a long time, this is perfect. Now, I've been using this thing for 6 months, put about 3, maybe 4,000 rounds through the gun during that time. So I have a good feel for what this optic has. It has a few downsides. In order to make this tritium and fiber work, they made a very dark tint on the lens. So anything you see through it is much darker. So let's say you're going for night shooting. If you want to see a target that's not white through it, you're going to need at least a 500 lumen light to see something 10 yards away, or even 5 yards. Where if you had something with a lighter tint, like an electronic RMR or a Burris Fastfire or a Vortex Viper, I've played with all of those. They have a much lighter tint, so you can still see through it, and you only need about 150 lumens to ID something. That's to give you an idea of what kind of difference you're seeing on these. Now, of course, this thing has maintained 0, so there's no problems in going, hey, has this walked? No, it's just stayed on where it's at, which is fantastic for the manufacturing. And like I said, you don't have to take it off to change batteries, which is another very, very positive point on this design. But the downside is that lens tint. You can have problems where if you're shooting into the sun, especially when it's near sunset, when that sun gets to the right angle, it will completely black out anything you see through that lens. So you are completely unable to ID your target. You'll still be able to see the dot, but you're going to have to infer what's through the lens to see your target. So you're not actually going to be able to see it. You're more or less guessing. Can you, with a little bit of practice, make it work? Yes, but you're still not seeing your target and what's beyond it. That is a major downside to using this design. And honestly, that is the major reason is the tint on that lens. It makes it so difficult to ID targets, especially if you're doing something red, green, something dark at night. You're going to pretty much not be able to make it out. Let's say you're using a weapon-mounted flashlight. Your target will be illuminated. There is no illumination going into the sight, so it's on tritium. You're pretty much going to fall back to iron sights, which means you're going to need to have co-witnessing iron sights to be able to shoot effectively in the dark, which pretty much rules out any use for this sight at all in night, which is the downside. And most people think, hey, I'm going to get this, so it's at night, I don't have a problem. Now, other red dots have the problem. Other than the RMR is one of the few designs, so the electronic RMR is one of the few designs that is always on. A lot of the others have a 12 or 14-hour shutoff, which means for your carry weapon, what if you turned it on 14 hours ago and it's now 14 and a half hours past? You don't have a dot when you pull out your gun to shoot if you need it. So that is the reason why this is a positive on the design. It's just the negative that when shooting at night, you either need to have the flashlight behind to get some of your light into the fiber optic so it's bright enough you can ID it, or you're just using iron sights. And that's why I give this optic a 6 out of 10. I am still looking for the best red dot because I believe red dots are the way to go. They really are a force multiplier for any new shooter because you can give a new shooter this gun and they can start hitting small targets fast and they feel effective with it. Older shooters do have problems. Masada Ayub did an article in Guns Magazine a couple months back talking about it. But they found newer shooters are more effective with red dots than older shooters who are used to and trained on the iron sights. And I think that should cover it. Any questions?
So you pretty much think that anyone who's in the market to get a Trijicon, they should ante up and get the new LED models?
Well, that's the thing. They were both made at the same time. You just have either the LED model or you have this dual illumination model. The downside of the LED model, whenever you change the battery, you have to completely remove the sight from the gun because the battery compartment's on the bottom and it's held in by the gun itself. As compared to other designs like the Fastfires, Leupold's newest one, the new SIG ones, every other one that I've seen newer, they all have the battery compartment on the top. And that's another thing on this RMR. You actually have a slightly thicker window around the lens. So you have a thicker hood and it's set down in a little bit more than what you're going to see on one of the other newer designs. I haven't actually been able to get behind one of the SIG ones yet, But I can say for the Vortex ones, for the Fast Fire ones, and from everything I've seen on the Leupold ones, they all have a very thin bezel around the window. The lenses are the same size on both of them. It's just it's set further down in on the Trijicon.
Yeah, I've been shooting I've been shooting some red dots lately on pistols, and again, like you said, like Masada, you said, it's kind of something that a experienced shooter has to get used to. I think a lot of people think you can just gear it up, smack it on, and it'll work better. No, you have to put in time with these things, and you also have to find out what works for you. I was just watching your video, and man, that thing is dark at night. I mean, it's like it wears sunshades. It's hard to see through. So
It really is.
I'd probably look for something else. A lot of these people think they're going to just get this red dot and it's going to go pop and a pow and it's going to show up really bright. Well, sometimes they don't. And you really need to experience this stuff before you put your well-earned money into it. I mean, how much is this MSRP?
I haven't actually found a Trijicon MSRP, but it appears to be going for about $600 to $650, is I believe where the MSRP is.
Yeah.
And you can find them for about $500 to $600.
Yeah, so I would, if not, go to a gun shop and look through them myself. I'd at least hit up a bunch of videos on YouTube to look through them and see what it looks like.
And
Yeah,
if you're going to do the dual illumination, if you're going to look at it at the shop, take your finger, put it over the fiber on the top so you can see what the pure tritium looks like.
Yeah, that's a good point, because some of those tritiums, and pointed out the window where it's brighter, kind of like your video, it did a good showing of when you're backlit with something bright. I wonder, do they make a red version?
For the dual illumination, they only have amber and green.
Okay. I was wondering if maybe the red would show up better, but amber would probably be about the same. And if I remember right, I think the Power Factor show, one of them has the dual illumination. And I remember them saying the same thing you were saying. It's really dark screen or lens. So, yeah, I was kind of really curious to jump on here today and see what you had to say about it, because you basically said what I had heard, and then along with the RMRs or any red dot on a pistol, you kind of have to do enough, dry fire or draws to get that dot to show up when you draw the pistol and aim it, because it's a little different than your iron sights.
It's about the same, especially if you're using suppressor height sights, which is what I installed on this Glock to be able to use it. I mean, if you're using just a straight Glock MOS, you have no irons.
No,
you're looking at base plate. You're starting at base plate.
Or you're searching for the dot. You're wandering around going, where is that thing?
Oh, yeah, you definitely look like an old person looking for their glasses on their forehead, kind of, where's the dot? Where's the dot? Where's the dot?
We do that anyway, Tony.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't want to bring it up, man. Why don't?
Oh, okay.
I've tried this multiple times also with the laser. Now, I don't shoot as much as a lot of people, but I do get to the range, except lately, every week. And I shoot different type of firearms, and there's no such thing as strap-on, bolt-on horsepower. If you're not, that's one thing they used to say about some of the catalogs. You could, add 10 horsepower here, add 10 horsepower here by buying this accessory. Same thing in the gun world. You're not going to get any better by strapping stuff to your gun. You're going to get better by actually putting trigger time on it and using the stuff that's on your firearm. And this is where everything from lasers to RMRs to your Trijicon, your night sights, all that comes with, you got to use it and you got to know how to use it.
I agree. There is one difference on this, though. If it is a quick short circuit, so instead of having to learn how to perfectly read your irons and call your shots every single time, the dot takes that out. So all you really have to do is have a smooth, steady, consistent trigger pull, and that bullet is going exactly where the dot is.
I agree with you 100%, even though it irks me as an old jarhead to hear that crap. The Marine Corps actually has gotten rid of pretty much using irons. They use Trijicons now, even to qualify. And it's true. They're interested in putting out accurate shooters. They don't care if you become a marksman or a good, firearms guy that knows how to line up sights. They want you to put that red dot on the target and be able to know the other fundamentals that hit that target. So you're still not getting away from the fundamentals. You're just skipping one of them, which is sight alignment. Still have a sight picture. Same thing. You just drop sight alignment. Put in work if you want to get better.
Very true. And it also helps you on transitions because you can follow exactly where you're going, moving from target to target to target. So if you go for a Bianchi plate rack, that really shows how much this improves it. Because I can give somebody an iron-sighted gun who's a new shooter, and they might go 7 rounds and knock down 2 plates. I give them this, and they're going about 10 rounds, 6 plates. So they are definitely improving. It is fantastic for new shooters because they are hitting what they're aiming at every single time, and they're enjoying it because they're getting the feedback going, yes, I can actually do this. I'm doing good. Yay.
That's one thing. And another thing is you can't really go cheap with what you put on your pistol as a red dot or as a RMR. You really have to spend the money to get a good one, or else you're going to be spending your money over and over again. I think and this is only going by what I've heard, what I've seen, but not what I've shot, is the cheapest you're going to get is the Vortex Venom, I think it is.
Yes.
Is that what they call it? And that's pretty much where I'd stop in the dollar range of going down, because I think that's around the mid-3s, 4s.
It's about $320 is what I picked one up for. It's a good red dot.
Yeah.
And the Burris fast fires, those are also pretty good. Downside on both of them, they have the automatic turnoff, so they're not always going to be on when you're putting on your concealed carry weapon. So I can't say, hey, put this on your concealed carry gun. You'll be fine. No.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine because I know when I'll get in trouble, I'll leave the chamber empty. I'll draw, turn on my RMR, and then rack around in the chamber. I know what I'm doing. I watch this on TV.
Well, that is one other benefit of an RMR. It actually, for somebody who's got weak or a crippled hand, it gives them a very large platform to rack the slide with.
There you go. So see, I can carry chamber empty with my red dot on. I'm just joking. I am just joking. Good Lord, I'm joking.
Make sure to carry it in your Serpa holster and push in with the tip of your finger so it shoots you in the leg.
No, see, that's ridiculous. I carried my Uncle Mike's sock with the belt clip. Don't ever insult my tactical genius.
I thought you just carried it in a cardboard box.
No, and I use that rip ammo too, by the way, because it flies into millions of pieces. It'll steal your soul
and blow off your arm at 5 paces.
Oh, that's just my 45 does that anyway. Sometimes I don't even have to shoot it. I just throw it around at it right out the box, rip your arm right off.
Unless you're wearing a flak jacket, because then it catches all of those little
pieces.
All those pieces.
That's one of the greatest. Hold my beer. Watch this stories of at least a month. I got on a flak jacket. How's it work? I don't know. Let me show you. Boom.
Oops.
Shouldn't have shot him in the head. He's got the jacket on. Oh my God.
So does anyone else have any questions?
No.
Nope. Sweet. So I know that you kind of reviewed it in your own way, but we don't have the 8 key points. You kind of touched on a little bit of those, but if you were to give it a score out of 1 to 10, what would you assign it?
I would give it a 6 because honestly, it's just a range toy, and this is being sold more for law enforcement, home defense, and competitive shooters. For a competitive shooter, if you're doing a night match, it's not going to work for you, especially if you're going to have a light mounted on the front of your gun. You're going to be falling back on directly on the irons. For home defense, you're probably going to be at night. And same thing. If you have a weapon-mounted light or you're holding a flashlight, that's going to be illuminating your target, not illuminating the sight, making it very difficult to actually use the red dot, making it pretty much useless for its design purpose there.
There you go.
All right. So now we're going to get on to my review, and I'm reviewing the Bushnell Trophy Cam HD Aggressor. So last year was kind of my first venture into trail cameras. My dad had a birthday in January, and or no, I think this was a Father's Day gift because it was closer to hunting season, so it was June. And if you're like me, you buy your dad stuff for holidays that you want to use later on, or you want in your collection later on. So guns, toys, gadgets, gear. That's usually how it goes. So I was like, "Here, Dad, I finally got you a trail camera. Now I can use it when I'm hunting." And we kind of hunt together, so it was a good gift. Actually, the first one I got him was not this Bushnell. I got him a stealth cam. It was a G series. I don't know. It was the G42 something or other. So I bought it from Bass Pro because I happen to have a discount, spend over $100 and something and get so many dollars off. So I got the stealth gear. Seem to have pretty decent reviews, and the pictures that people post on those reviews, actual footage of what that camera takes, is a really good indicator of, oh, hey, that looks like it's a fairly good quality. So I got the stealth gear, and I had it out for, I think the first night, took some pictures. The next day when I went to go change out the card, and I was going to see if I needed to tweak settings, it had 2 latches on it for opening the door. And there had been like a piece of grass or reed that had gotten caught in the door, and I didn't see it. So when I tried to close the second latch, the plastic of the latch just weakened and snapped over just a little silly weed. So I took it back to Bass Pro. They refunded me, no problem. But ultimately, my first priority was I need to find another camera quick for the hunting season. I don't want to wait for shipping or anything like that. I want something that's got a really good latch system, so I'm not going to break it again. And then obviously I didn't want to spend over what I had already gotten back in refund. So I was kind of working with, under $200. I was willing to spend an extra 20 or so to get something a little nicer. So looking around on the shelf, I was looking at these Bushnells, and obviously there's lots of brand names of cameras out there now. It seems like everyone and their uncle is making a trail camera. But I wanted to go with Bushnell just because they've been around for a very long time. They're a very well-known name in the industry. And the latch on the aggressors is actually really robust. So you've got just a little thumb latch here that goes over the locking loop. But it's got this very 3.5, that's about 3 inches wide latch that grips onto the door. So I knew I wasn't going to break that, and I liked when I opened it, I saw it had an O-ring in there to keep out the moisture. So I went and got this. So they do have the aggressor available in 2 different colors. So obviously you're looking at mine going, well, what the heck is that? So they charge you an extra $20 to get this in a Realtree Extra camo dip. They hydrographically dip it to be camouflage. Well, I felt cheap at the time, and so I was like, I'm just going to save $20, get the solid color version, and then I'm going to take frog tape and cut it into little strips and just stick the little strips all over it to mimic the reeds. So I've got a picture in the review of it strapped to a little branch or a little twig, a big limb that I had driven into the ground, and it's got a bunch of reeds behind it, and it blends in a whole lot better. I wasn't really worried about the deer seeing the camera because unless it looks like a predator or really obnoxious, they're usually not going to look at it and pay much attention to it. If they do look at it and they're investigating it, then you're just going to get better facial shots of the deer anyway. My concern was somebody walking, some kind of transient hobo, whatever, walking by, another hunter maybe seeing it, getting mad, and thinking that they had the right to trash it or whatnot. So I just wanted to give it a little extra camouflage so it didn't stand out as obvious as a dark clump against the background of all this grass. And I did this too because it was non-permanent. If this failed me in any way and I needed to take it back, if I had just taken the paint to it and really tried to paint an elaborate camouflage pattern, then this doesn't kind of ruin the quality, and I can take it back, just remove the tape. But so far it's lasted a year, and looking at the other reviews that I've seen online, I feel like I got lucky because there's a lot of people that hate this camera and recommend that you get something else. But there's also a lot of people that say, I don't know what those people's problems are. This camera works great for me. So it's kind of a mixed bag of reviews. The main complaints about this is that it gets kind of confused. It knows, okay, when's the daytime, when's the nighttime, and then those transitional hours, in dawn and dusk, when it's getting dark or it's getting light. Sometime the first generation, before there was a firmware update, the flash wouldn't go off at at dusk. The flash wouldn't go off, so you'd get a lot of dark pictures until it reached a certain hour, and then the flash would turn on. So you'd have quite a bit of dark shots on your memory card. And in the morning time, it'd be the opposite, where you'd have flash going on when you didn't really need it, which isn't as much as a problem as the dusk time. So there is a firmware update available. I've got the link to that in the review, where you can update the firmware on your camera, and it's supposed to just overall improve the performance of that flash, depending on what time of day it is. So I used it on my hunt. I've got a little oasis. It's kind of a suburban area, but there's a nice easement behind my parents' property, and it's like I said, it's like an oasis. There's a lot of bucks that use that as a highway and come through there looking for does. So I've got a lot of pictures of does and fawns for the first 3 days of using it. And I kind of moved it around until I kind of found a well-used trail, or whichever trail that obviously to my eye looked well-used was actually being used more. And eventually there's a small window where all of a sudden the bucks just show up where I live. I mean, they're just there. And if you're not out there sitting in your, whatever blind or your tree stand, you're not seeing them come in at that exact time. You just don't know. So the advantage of having a camera like this is you can just check the card and then, oh, yep, okay, the bucks are here. And then you can amp up the amount of time that you spend out in the field. So if it's really raining, you don't want to waste your time, and you haven't seen any bucks come into the area yet, or you're waiting for the rut to kind of start and for them to be more active. A trail camera really helps you because it time stamps all those shots, and you can see, okay, do I have any legal bucks in my area, and how many ones are legal? Which one do I really want to take? What time of day did he go through this trail? And they're usually pretty consistent. Obviously, depending on how much moonlight there was and they were up feeding the night before, what pushed them as far as predators or other people, so on and so forth. But it gives you clues as to the behavior of the animals in that area, and it helps you to kind of better understand, okay, he usually comes from the southwest heading north, and this little narrow window, and that's exactly how I ended up getting my buck last year. As I figured out which direction he was heading west to east, and he'd always come out about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was able to kind of catch him on the camera a couple times, know that he was legal, and be able to pick him out from other smaller bucks in the area. And then know to race home from work as soon as I could and catch him where he crosses. And sure enough, I caught him crossing, and I let him have it. So that was a successful hunt last year. And I kind of attribute it to the camera because it was a really nice tool in the old tool bag to help me, know he was there and not have it just be a stroke of luck that, the one time I was sitting out there and he happened to walk on by. So just like having a fish finder on your boat, and not purely letting it up to lady luck to whether you're trolling over a school of fish and you happen to catch one on your lure. A trail camera works in the same way as making sure that you're in the right spot at the right time and not leaving it all up to chance. So on to the 8 key points of this trail camera. The Aggressor, it does come in 2 different flavors, obviously in the 2 colors, but it comes in a low glow and a no glow. Meaning, even though it's got anti-reflective on the LEDs, there's models that have a very low glow setting, and then there's a model with the black LEDs that does not glow at all. And the main difference between those is some deer are sensitive to, they're eating, whether you've got apples down or something like that, and they see the glow, they might not like that, might shy away from that area, so you don't get photos of them as much because they're actively avoiding your camera because it had a little bit of that flash. It's not really a flash, like I said, it's just a very dim glow, kind of like it's like a passive glow, like the reflectors on a bicycle going down the street, and catching the ambient light. That's the kind of glow it has. But obviously bugs really like that glow too, kind of like a moth to a flame. And so if you get the low glow or the no glow, you're in an area where there's a lot of moths and other kind of bugs at night. You're probably going to have a lot less false positives as far as the camera activating because there was a bug flying close to the sensor because the glowing that was happening. But the claim to fame is that the Trophy Cam HD aggressors are exactly what hunters have been waiting for. The target market obviously is all hunters. It works for deer, elk, obviously anything that moves in the woods, you would need a camera to see them for. The features and benefits, this camera is actually for the price point. It's got a lot of features on there that a lot of cameras don't have until you're paying over $200. So that's kind of the big plus with this. So it's a 14 megapixel resolution. So it's got a 1920 by 1080p. It does take video with the length up to 60 seconds, including audio. It does have this anti-reflection shield on there. It does accept SD cards up to 32 gigabytes in capacity. So it has a field scan 2x mode, which lets you program 2 intervals in the day where you want it to do a field scan, which is take some time-lapse photos as well as, if anything walks by it, that will still activate the triggered photos. But you can basically say, okay, I know deer come out at, deer 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock. I want it to do a time-lapse then, and then you can all set it into the later half of the day, just about dusk, where they're in between moving to the bed and where they're feeding or just whatever their activity is. So it's got freeze frame anti-blurring setting for the night vision shutter. The night vision on this camera is really great. Most of the deer in my area turn nocturnal after like the first week of the season. And so you've got like a really narrow window, and sometimes they're out all night, obviously, feeding and whatnot, depending on the moon. So having a really good night vision quality night shots was what I was after. And the freeze frame anti-blurring on this makes it so that at night the lines and the shapes are really crisp. It's got really nice contrast of whatever that light is reflecting off of back to the lens. It does have a hybrid capture mode, so you can have it in photo only mode, video only mode, or hybrid capture mode, which it takes one photo and then it takes a video, and then you can choose what the interval is between those and the length of the video that it takes. The IR sensor on there does have 4 different modes, so it has low, medium, and high, as well as an automatic. So the automatic will kind of gauge the temperature and the ambient light and kind of roughly choose how bright that IR, or how sensitive the sensor is. Because there's a thing, if it's hotter out, then it's a little bit more reactive on like moving grass and things, because everything's kind of a warmer temperature, versus when it's colder out, you want it to be a little bit more sensitive because the warm body is moving across and you've got the cold environment around it. The display, it does not have a picture viewer. That's a feature that does cost a lot more on game cameras, to be able to go through your photos on the unit without having to like pull the card, replace it, go back to your computer, and then plug in the card and view your photos. But it does have a nice white LED screen for you to just change the modes around. So here I opened it up for you guys on the camera. So it's nice that it glows bright white so that you can make these changes at night pretty easily. I don't know if the camera is going to focus on what the LEDs actually say. That doesn't look like it will. It does use AA batteries. It uses 8 of them, so you can see they're all exposed right there when I open it up. And that's actually a con. I don't like the fact that when you expose it, when you open it, the batteries are exposed. I think that's kind of problematic, especially if you live in the Pacific Northwest like I do, and it's usually raining or some kind of moisture in the air falling in one fashion or another. It does have a very good battery life. It says up to 1 year. And of course, you can tune the sensitivity and the brightness of the flash to increase your battery life, as well as not just waste your SD card filling it up with photos with nothing going on. It is compatible with solar devices, so solar panels. If you wanted to increase the battery life of this, have it run off the solar. That's not included, obviously. It does come with this adjustable web belt, so you can strap it to any kind of T-post or tree that you want. So it's nice that they do include that. As well, it does have a 1/4 by 20 threaded socket in the back. If you had the mount that works for tripods, and you live in an area that does not have a lot of trees, or you want to set this up area where there is no trees, and still have it pointing in the direction you want. So it does have a just a little toggle switch. That there's an off mode, a settings mode, and an on mode. So, or the setup mode is where you get to all your settings, and you can just toggle back and forth between the different settings, choose the megapixels, choose whether you want the photo mode, the video mode, or the hybrid mode, and then set your date, time, and temperature. And if you wanted to have GPS geotagging, it does that too. So you access that all there. When you're done, you really want to make sure you flip it up to the on position, because that turns the camera on. I had to educate my dad on this, because when he used it when I wasn't there, he would just turn it on the setup mode, and he'd get the setting he want, and then he'd just close it and be done with it. So it'd be stuck in setup mode and just drain the battery. So when it's got a blue light on glowing, it's still in setup mode. You do not want to walk away from the camera when the blue light is still on, because it's not taking any photos and you're just killing battery. So you want to flip it all the way up to the top setting and then close it, and you'll see a little light blinking indicating that it is on and that to run away. So you see that red light blinking. So once you get out of the field of view, then it's all set to go. So what other aesthetic options or finishes are available? Like I said before, solid dark green. They call it a brown usually on some websites, but it's really like a dark green. Or you can have that camo dipped. It's usually an extra $20 depending on who the seller is. So what others are saying, I got a review that I put in there, and then I have a link to another review on chasinggame.com. Where they took some photos before the firmware update and after, and kind of show the difference. So I got the link to that in the review notes. So the price point, the MSRP for the solid color is $179.99, $180, and then an extra $20 for the Realtree extra camo dipping. So that's $200. Retail I found on Amazon has the solid color for $150 or $149.01. And that actually is the no glow, but I'm sure you can still find the low glow on Amazon for the same price. That is from Bushnell, is the seller there on Amazon. So if you need it now, I'd say Amazon, or you can go to any of like the hunting shops, Cabela's, Bass Pro, whatever you have like a discount code on. I'd try and take advantage of that, use it there. So my rating, I gave it a 6.5 as okay. And there's actually quite a bit of pros and cons that added up to that. So pros, the immediate thing that drew me to this camera was the latch being really rigid and large. I mean, you could flip this open all day, and I'm not worried about the plastic really snapping. It's a very thick plastic on this latch, and I'm not afraid of it's going to break like the first camera I tried did. The external power compatibility is also really nice. So it's actually got a little rubber cover that covers up a DC port. So if you were using this close to a power source, you could plug it in right there. If you're using the solar, you can plug that in right there too. The crispness and brightness of the night photos are really fantastic on this camera. And like I said, I do have photos up on my review that are taken at night. I really like the gasket to seal out moisture, keep it weatherproof. It was out in freezing morning temperatures, and it seemed to work just fine. So it seems like it is fairly impervious to the elements. I have not done it in a blizzard yet, but I'll try that this year. If it's a snowy winter, I'll put it out in late season. The shutter speed is arguably one of the features that they try and boast most about this camera. Even the box, which I have right here, says a 0.2 second trigger speed. That's like the first thing you see on the box. It does have a very fast trigger speed, probably arguably one of the fastest in that price category. So there's no problem there. That just means that you can choose the interval between photos. So if you have it on the fastest interval of like 1 second between photos, I mean, you could take 3 or 4 photos in just 5 seconds. It's really fast. You will end up filling up your memory card that way. So I suggest that you set that interval a little bit wider, so you're not getting the same picture of the same deer in the same pose for so many frames. Try and space out that interval a little bit more. And the sensitivity and delay settings, like I said, really maximize that efficiency. If you're finding that you're in a windy area, or you've got a lot of birds in the area, and anything that goes by sets off that camera, and you're getting a lot of false positives of just empty shots, turn down the sensitivity a little bit and see if that gets you fewer shots. Look at the timestamps, and if everything's like a couple seconds after each other, turn down the sensitivity, and hopefully it'll space out to whenever something actually moves in front of it, instead of getting an accidental time lapse of what happened that night until either your batteries die or your SD card fills up. One of the two. So the cons, which made it the lower rating: the batteries are exposed when you're retrieving the SD card or changing the settings. I hate this because there's times where it was just freaking pouring down rain, and I had to like take off my jacket, drip it over me, drape it over the camera so that I could get to the settings and the SD card without getting a bunch of moisture inside. There is a wide angle screen mode, and it's completely useless because it cuts off about 40% of the vertical picture of a full screen mode. But if you leave it in the full screen picture mode, it has all the horizontal information that you would get from the widescreen picture. So what is the point? Instead of just cropping it so it looks bigger when it's blown up on your TV or your computer, you just lose information that way. And a lot of times you might have, just the first 40% of the photo where the deer has put its head down and you can count the antlers and things like that. It does have an advertised 80-foot sensor range, and of course, like all marketing, they're going to give you the most blown up proportion or blown up measurement or attribute as possible, and that is not 80 feet at all times during the day and night. At night, it's more like 30 feet. If it's foggy out, good luck. If there's any fog or mist, the light of that IR LED is just going to bounce right back, and you're not going to get a very far shot at all. Or the sensor is going to be really limited as well. So like I said, the pre-dawn, pre-dusk times suffer from kind of a confused flash unless you get the firmware update. The lock and cable loops are plastic and thin. So if you think you're going to run a cable through this and lock it to the tree, you're sadly mistaken, because you can just barehanded just rip it off and break the plastic. Most people get the actual metal locking boxes that are compatible, kind of universal for most trail cameras. And as it offers a little bit better security if you're worried about theft, as well as the locking latch there. I mean, that's just plastic. You could easily just grab a hold of whatever padlock you have on there and rip it right off, or twist it and break that plastic. So I wouldn't depend on any of those security features on this camera alone without getting something, like I said, a big metal shell that they make that's more universally compatible for more cameras. And it would be great if you were able to select a variable flash setting for daytime versus nighttime, because my daytime photos often suffered because I turned down the flash at night because it was just too bright and it was blowing out everything. I got a picture of a fawn walking by the camera and everything was super blown out and white, and if that was a buck, I mean, I probably would still be able to count the antlers because of the crispness and the resolution of the photo. but it's just kind of sloppy. So I wish you were able to choose, okay, I want a normal or medium flash during night, and I want high flash during the day, because I feel like my day photos just sucked. There was no contrast. Everything is just kind of flat, and you can still make out, okay, yeah, that's a deer because it's brown, but there's really no depth to the photos like there is with the night shots. So all those kind of led to the 6.5 as okay rating. I'm going to use it this year for sure. I'm going to keep using it until it breaks, and then I'm going to upgrade and get a nicer one, maybe something that's got wireless, so I don't need to be pulling the card every time. Every time I want to check on the status, I can use it my smartphone or whatever kind of device, and even delete the photos from your device from home, or a limited distance without getting your scent all over the area by checking it constantly. And even a picture viewer would be a great feature too. Even though if you've got like a 1.5 or 2-inch screen, it's really hard to see the details in the photos. So I can see why they didn't feel like they needed to include it on this model, which obviously saved money and brought it down to that lower price point. So what do you guys have to say about that?
I was going to say, for the price of what you're getting, it's probably a pretty good deal for $150. Like you said, I mean, it would be nice to have a bunch of other stuff in
But
it.
that raises the price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I don't really have any questions. You covered about everything I would want to know with it. And typically, like you said, the night feature is never what they say it is.
Yeah, but if you look at the photos, it's actually, there's a photo of an older buck who you can tell is kind of regressing. It's got a fairly non-typical asymmetrical spread, and he's probably 30 feet away, and I can't see anything past him as far as the brush. So that kind of shows you the limited range of the nighttime. But the contrast and the sharpness is there, so you can't complain.
Right.
Yeah. Now, did it come with a 2 gig card, or was that your card?
That was my card. It did not come with a card on its own.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, what's the max capacity card it supports?
32 gigabytes.
Oh, that's lame. I think they have terabytes out now.
They do.
Yeah, that's funny.
They do, but I think it requires a different adapter to plug into it, or something different about the software on those cards.
It's the software that runs the controller is what's different. So a 32 gig is one of the lower capacity SDs anymore. Most camcorders use 64 or 128 or as much as you can buy.
Right. Well, you were talking about looking at pictures. I would agree that putting a viewfinder on that, or a view screen on that camera, would jack up the price. What I do when I go look at the hunting preserve I have access to back in North Carolina is I just carry around a digital camera. Pop out the thing, plug it in the digital camera, look at it, decide which pictures I want to take.
That's what I ended up. Actually, I was using the Canon video camera that I use for FRN when we go to like SHOT Show and stuff. I just popped it in there, so at least that's got a little bit of a bigger screen I can look at. And then obviously, if you've got a laptop or computer with a card reader, you're good to go. Yeah. But
don't let Rob lie to you. He carries a digital camera around at all times for a totally different reason. It has nothing to do with game. I'm just saying.
Daggum. Daggum. Well, on a serious question, how many pictures can you get on one of those on that 2 gig card?
I don't know, but I could fill it up. I think I filled up about every day and a half because when I first started, the settings were too sensitive and the interval was too short. So I mean, I literally, when I'm looking on the computer, I hold down the right arrow key or the down arrow key, however I'm viewing it, to just scroll through the photos, and they're all virtually the same because it's just too sensitive. So you really got to tune that when you first start out, or else you're gonna have a heck of a time going like, well, where are the animals? I have a bunch of these pictures of nothing going on.
Right.
But I was going to say, I did get a picture of a bird flying midair in the camera, It's like the second to last photo in my review. So the shutter speed, that just goes to show how quick that shutter speed is, because you can actually see the wings flapping in midair. So it's definitely got a really good shutter on there.
Oh, yeah, some of those cameras are really nice.
Yeah, I was looking actually into this for a friend of mine because he doesn't hunt, but he has a lot of woods, a lot of property, and he likes looking at what animals live on his property. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we were going through a lot of this and doing this show and just reviewing stuff or looking into things, you know, the rabbit hole of YouTube and anything else. So I was looking at different things. And what do you think would be the one thing that would make this better? I mean, because that's a frightening. Oh, that's you. That's a picture of you. Okay. I was going through the review and something scared me, and I thought it was a Bigfoot. And then I realized it was your picture smiling with a deer. But I hear what you're saying, because again, as someone who's not used these, so all I have to go on are the descriptions from the manufacturers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that kind of puts you out there to the leaves you to the mercy of whoever has the best ad people. So when it tells you something like, yeah, you can see stuff 80 feet out. Well, yeah, on a perfect day with the sun aligned right. So
yeah, that's
what
the
do you
difficult thing. Is because if you were out there with a camera in your hands, you're able to choose whatever brightness setting you want, the white balance, etc., to get the optimum photo. Whereas you've got this thing sitting out in the middle of nowhere, and it's doing all the thinking on its own. They are getting smarter, and if I wanted to get a lot better quality photos day and night, no matter what time of day, no matter if it was foggy, rainy, or overcast, yeah, if I spent over $300, I would have got that. But ultimately, I was looking for what's the lowest amount of money I can spend, but still get a good quality, and that's kind of where I arrived at this from. If I were to improve it in any way, I'd be afraid that the price point would be in the $250 range, which I honestly was just trying to avoid at all costs.
what do you think the next step up then is from this price wise? Because this is sub 2.
As far as features or
yeah,
price?
As far as features, because what it is this: he doesn't care about an extreme amount of money.
Yeah,
but like the difference to him between a $200 and a $300 isn't that big of a deal. So how much of a step up is the next level?
A higher megapixel. I mean, it says 14 megapixel, and if you've got it in the wrong spot and it's the less optimum conditions, it could not look 14 megapixel at all. It might look like 12 or 7. But ultimately, what you're looking at when you're shopping for game cameras is what is the megapixel, and does it have wireless, and does it have a picture viewer on board? I mean, if you don't care about being able to access it wirelessly, I mean, I think we've had one on the show where you could access it through, you actually pay a data plan, and you can access it at home, miles and miles away across the country if you wanted to. But I mean, they do have a model that uses wireless, so I assume there's got to be a certain range where you can access it using an app on your phone. That might appeal to some people if they, like I said, you don't want to get your scent right down there, because if they can smell that humans have been by there, they might be a little less likely to actually get in front of your camera to take photos.
Of course, you can always do that wireless connection by throwing in a wireless SD card in there.
They have those?
Oh yeah, they've had them for years. They're like $30 anymore, and you can get a 32 gig SD card that you hook up to an app on your phone, and it just automatically pulls all the pictures across.
Well, what's the range on that? Like distance?
Probably 30 to 50 feet.
That's pretty. I had no idea they had that.
You brought Matt on here for a reason, right? Because
now I know why you're on that podcast.
Yeah,
Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns.
Yeah, the geek just came out.
Holy cow!
I started as a computer geek. It was only 4 years ago I got into guns.
So it's only like $30.
Let's see. There's one on Amazon right now for $40. It's a 32 gig card.
Wow. Well, there you go. You can upgrade it just doing it like that.
There you go.
Ryan will have
Yep.
ordered one by the end of the podcast.
What are you
Yeah,
talking
right?
about? He just did it now with Amazon Prime. It's halfway through his house, halfway to his house now.
Yep.
So I'm pretty happy that I did get a couple really nice photos of the buck I actually ended up taking last year. So I've got some really nice photos of him alive and breathing before, he stopped breathing. So I thought that was kind of cool because I was discouraged at first because, like I said, there's a lot of fawns and does, and then like a little 2-point came by, and I was just like, oh man, I'm waiting to see something nicer, and then all of a sudden he's a pretty tall 3x3. Actually, he was a 3x4, and that's when I knew that okay, there's one in this area that's in, and he's sticking around. I've got to step up my game and get this guy.
Well, you need to go back and get that coyote.
The coyote?
Yeah.
Oh, he's long gone. I assure you. Or
I'm surprised it took such a good picture of him because all the coyotes around here, the few we have,
yeah.
They're always doing like 40 miles an hour when you see them.
Well, I think I got some photos of a little rabbit too, and I think he was probably following the scent of that rabbit.
Oh, okay.
So he was a little bit slower and
A
cautious.
little bit slower.
Yeah.
I got you.
But, yeah, so that's my review. Shoot, we're already over an hour. So let's quickly talk about this Chris, and then we'll wrap up the show. So the Chris Vector, it's been out for a while, but they do have a Gen 2 version now. Comes in multiple configurations and colors. So you can get it in white, black, or OD green. So if you want to get your Hunger Games on, you can get the white version. Go all Arctic on it.
Don't they make Battleship Gray?
Probably. And they do have different configurations. You can get the pistol version that's got no kind of brace or anything. They do have a braced version that's a little bit more. So the pistol version's $1,369. The braced version that comes with a little folding adapter and it's got an SB tactical brace on there, that's $1,519. And then they make a carbine version for the same price. So it's got a 16-inch barrel with kind of a fake suppressor shroud over the end of it. And then you can get the SBR for an extra $50, and that's before the tax stamp. So $1,569 for the SBR version, and then obviously you've got all the red tape with the NFA and the tax stamp to go through.
And mention on the carbine version, the stock does not fold on that.
Not at all.
It will not fold to the side.
Well, that's stupid.
It only adjusts for length of pull.
Yeah, because else you'd end up with that the overall length requirement not met.
No.
I find it hard to believe that because bullpups.
Well, you got AKs with folding stocks, and it's overall is what the measurement is.
Yeah, it's a 27-inch overall length, and I'm pretty sure with the 16-inch barrel that upper receiver is about 11 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think that falls into kind of I don't know why you would do something like that.
Well, that pretty much describes the Chris Vector unless you got it in full auto.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
So they've got the Gen 2 versions, and they're now available in the 10mm chambering. So they'll take the Glock 10mm mags, so the Glock 20 mags, and I forget what the other Glock 10mm was. I'm sure Tony will know.
What, the Glock 21, the Glock 40?
Yeah, there you go. So I think, did the price point come down on these guys? Because it seems like they're not as expensive to get into as what they used to be.
That's what I was thinking, because I was looking at these prices going, that's not as bad as I remember them being.
I'll tell you what, every time I've seen these in gun shops, they're way more than $1,600.
Honestly, $1,600 sounds about right the last time I saw them in shop.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting, though, that they also are saying, hey, we got a 357 SIG and a 40 Smith & Wesson variant coming as well.
Yes.
Cool, more useless calibers. Great. You got 41 Magnum. I got 45 Gap. Just
Wait,
At least they have the 9mm available. I kind of want to try out a 9mm in full auto. Mostly because I know that the one I tried in 45 ACP, me and the owner of it, it was huge spread if you just did a full burst. But 2-round, the shots were almost touching at 30 yards. So that's where the Chris Vector shines. Outside of that, I don't know if it's really worth the money.
I'll tell you right now, an 8-pound carbine that costs that much money, pistol caliber carbine, I've shot one. We did a full auto version down here in one of our ranges. The girl in front of me got to shoot an entire magazine. Came to me, it would only shoot 2-round burst, and then it would lock up, and the guy would have to come and clear it, and then I'd fire it again, and it'd fire 2 rounds and lock up. And pretty much I was not impressed by it whatsoever. So when I went to the NRA show, and I ran into what's the guy's name over at the Chris booth? Tim Sargent. Yeah, Tim. And I laid into him talking about, your thing doesn't work, dude. It sucks. I was like, you should make it in 10mm. No, I'm just joking. But no, I wasn't really impressed by it for the amount of money that it cost. It looks cool in photos, and you can change your profile pic on Facebook. But other than that, you can get a lot more bang for your buck out of almost any other company's pistol caliber carbine.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you have bullpup pistol caliber carbines available. They're much smaller. They're handier than something like this, because if you're getting in a carbine configuration, you have a fixed stock, you have that 16-inch barrel, you have a very long gun that's very expensive.
And with not a lot of real estate to move your hands around either. Pretty much you're almost locked into one position, or else you're going to hit the bolt lock, or you're going to somehow impair the function of the firearm.
But it works on Glock mags.
Oh, yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the Tim from Military Arms channel. He likes to joke around because he constantly gets the comments on YouTube. But does it take Glock magazines? So usually, if he's reviewing something, even though it's completely unrelated, like say it's an AK variant, he's got to throw in, no, it does not take Glock mags, just to appease those people that constantly ask that question. So it is nice that it does take Glock mags, though. But it is a lot of novelty. But there's some guys that love 10mm so much that they want to buy everything that comes in 10mm. So I would say if you're going to get something in the 13, 14 range, don't get the Remington 10mm R11911 we talked about last week. And do look at the Vector Gen 2, because you get more cool points. And that comes with Magpul flip-up iron sights.
Here we go.
and soon Magpul will release the 10mm PMags, Glock compatible, so you'll be able to get cheaper magazines at that point.
And probably more capacity.
Yeah, probably more capacity.
It will be interesting to see if they do actually release a magazine extension like they have for the 45 ACP on this variant.
Yeah.
They may. This is the thing. People out there love the 10mm. It never went away, even though it had a severe downturn. It never went away. So it's growing again, and people like Tim on the Military Arms channel love 10mm. And they create a little 10mm fantasy camp about what it actually does. But I mean, truthfully, it's just another round. That's all. I mean, they don't even load it in the hot configuration that it was actually meant to be. You pretty much get a 40 Smith & Wesson ballistics out of almost every factory box of 10mm out there until you go to somebody hot like Buffalo Bore, Double Tap. Everybody else does soft shooting crap, because the reason the 10mm didn't make it is because it kicked really hard and it made the FBI agents' hands hoit. They didn't want to put the time in to work it, man. You wanted a more powerful cartridge. You wanted something that penetrated barriers. You wanted something that got 16 inches of penetration in your little gelatin test. And when you found out it kicked that hard, you went, oh, well, maybe we'll cut it by 1/8 of an inch and call it a 40 Smith & Wesson. And finally, ballistics caught up with the 40 Smith & Wesson. So what are you doing with the 10 millimeter? Unless you buy hot loads, you're still shooting a 40 Smith & Wesson. I'm sorry. Even ballistic by the inch, 16-inch barrel gets you about 1,200 feet per second. That's 700 foot-pounds. Congratulations. You've reached the epic proportions of a 41 Magnum. Google it so you know what a 41 Magnum is.
Well, you can always reload your own hot ones if you really are super interested about it. But yeah, even the Buffalo bore is only going 1,500 feet per second.
Yeah. So you're beating up your firearm, and you're really not getting much out of it, really. Expensive firearm, expensive ammo for another, 300 foot-pounds on a range gun?
You mean foot-pounds or feet per second?
Feet per second.
Foot-pounds. Well, I was going foot-pounds with, a really hot load comes out top of the line at maybe, 600, 700 feet per second. And your regular self-defense ammo is about 450 feet per second with 9, 40, and 45.
Yeah.
So you're getting up there, but you're adding a $1,500 gun, a 16-inch barrel, and $1.25, $1.50 per round.
Well, since Tony wasn't here, I'll say what we said last week. Buy a Rock Island, handgun in 10 millimeter and save yourself a bunch of money.
Yeah. But how am I supposed to look cool at the local range?
Buy two of them and dual wield for the same price.
There you go. Or buy Tavor.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
he has one of those.
Exactly. That's why I said it.
Now I need something new to look cool.
Put a Magpul sling on it.
All right. So
it's really interesting how the 10 millimeter is very useless going from pistol length to a carbine length. You're only seeing about 1 to 200 feet per second increase, even on the hot loadings.
Yeah, that's what most people say was, oh, you've got extra barrel length, that's more time for the gas to push it out. That's like if you're shooting a 9 millimeter, or a 40. They say that if you shoot a 40 out of a 16-inch barrel, it makes it like a 10 millimeter, and they say that like it's supposed to mean something significant. But
yeah, my thing is
ballistic.
Yeah, ballistics by the inch, right?
Exactly.
There are some guns that really do take advantage of it, like the 357 Magnum. You get a huge jump by going through a longer barrel, but a lot of these auto cartridges don't. I mean, even something like the 300 Blackout, you're getting, with an 8-inch barrel, 88% of the speed that you would get out of a 16-inch barrel. What's the point of the extra inches except to comply with law?
Well, a couple of things with that. One, the 357 Magnum is based on 38. Of course, everyone knows that. Mm-hmm. But, the powder was older, and now you get to take advantage of all that burning powder with that extra barrel length. And that's where that comes from. But automatic cartridges are built for pistols. So they were built for the 5-inch, 5-inch barrel. So you're not going to get that much extra velocity and or power out of it because it's burning it up in the first 6 inches, something like that. So to have another 10 inches of barrel really doesn't give you anything with a lot of these cartridges.
And depending on the loading you're using, some of them will actually start losing velocity because there will be more friction to go through the barrel than you are actually having gas pressure built behind it. Exactly.
So, I mean, don't believe everything. Look into what people say because, again, 357 out of a 16-inch barrel is a whopper, especially with a hot load. But that doesn't translate to, let's just say, 357 SIG out of the same 16-inch barrel. It's not going to work, even though it won't work in the same firearm, but you know what I'm saying. It won't work because it's coming out of, a 16-inch barrel.
Very true. The only real benefit you get from that extra barrel length is you're going to have slightly lower decibel readings on the actual firing of the weapon.
Yeah, and if you're using iron sights, a longer sight radius. But other than that, don't let it fool you, man. Pistol caliber carbines are a lot of fun. And buy what you want. You know what I mean? Just make sure you get something that's going to last and you're going to be disappointed in. But don't believe what the gun store guy says about increased velocity or terminal ballistics when it's not really true, and you can easily look it up and see it's not true.
Do the research yourself. I mean, there's a reason why I have ballistics gel in a bunch of guns, because I'm doing the testing.
Yeah, Rob has ballistics gel and a ton of guns too, but it's not because of ballistics testing. He's just nasty.
No. Dang, Tony.
You
Oh, man.
have exceeded your quota of busting on Rob this episode.
All right. Ryan has a
You
lot of
quoted
ballistic
the first
gel.
5 minutes.
All right, fine. But Ryan has a
Well-
lot of ballistic gel.
Well, you know what? Tony just aims to over-exceed, I guess. I don't know.
I actually sleep on a bed of ballistics gel because it's a lot better than it offers a lot of support.
You know,
And this
see, I thought
episode of the Firearms Radio Network podcast is brought to you by the Ballistics Gel Corporation.
Gelata.
Gelata and
Gelata.
Magpul.
Well, okay, it's actually Gelita. I actually live within 20 miles of their factory, so it's easy for me to get their gel.
Well, there you go.
Gelita. That's one of the chicks Rob has. Oh, sorry, never mind.
All right. I will skip right over your part, and I don't care what shoot you have coming up.
I cut it off. I apologize.
All right.
The hurricane
All right. So go ahead.
coming. I may never see him again. Yeah.
So he's trying to
Second
get all of
issue.
his ribs in before the hurricane comes. I understand.
I'm gonna miss you, man. The Second is for Everyone Diversity Shoot is being held on October 6th at Gun for Hire Range in Woodland Park, New Jersey. It's gonna be a great time. A lot of swag, a lot of giveaways, awesome raffles. You're gonna have pizza, and I'm not gonna be there to enjoy it with you because I'm under the weather as it is. But it's gonna be hosted by a diverse group of people. Sean is actually going to be hosting it. That's what he gets for being so good at the announcements last week. Now he's running the thing. I have the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners. They're going to come out and they're going to help out. I also have the Hispanic, Hispanics for Firearms Ownership. They're running a port. Pretty much every Second Amendment group in the state is actually participating in making this thing happen as my co-host.
That's cool.
Yeah, going to be a ton of free swag, not only from me, but some of the my accompanying co-host. If you live in Jersey, you can make it out. Go do it because it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to even be handouts to start your firearms ID paperwork. Going to have that there. So if you want to get a pistol or you want to get another pistol purchase permit or a firearms ID card, we'll have the paperwork there for you to get started. You won't have to go to your local PD. You don't have to go online and download it. We're putting it in your hand. Thanks you guys for allowing me to be on the show every week. I really missed you guys the last couple of weeks. And if you want to help out with my diversity shoot, I know it's the Second is for Everyone.com, but if you want to get there quicker or just a shorter name, it's diversityshoot.com. I have a donate button. If you could help a brother out, I really appreciate it. And that's it. Thank you for allowing me to talk about this every week.
Yeah, no problem. So we are plugging the Fight Tyranny fundraiser. It's going on. They are offering T-shirts on their booster.com crowdfunding account to help fight the unlawful, unconstitutional gun ban that the Massachusetts Attorney General put down on the 20th of July this year. So it's from the Gun Owners Action League, and $15 for a shirt, and it goes to help fight help their efforts to fight this legislature. So let's see, they currently they've sold 40, raised $230 on this kind of interval, but every time it expires, I think they just kind of re-up it and make a new goal. So $15 is an awesome shirt. Sean bought one. He said it's really nice quality, and it goes to a very good cause. So make sure you check out the link in the show notes for that. Wrapping up, send questions or comments to the email address gungearreview@gmail.com. Subscribe and listen to the show, and leave us a review on iTunes if you want to. Check out all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network at firearmsradio.tv. And be sure to visit the Firearms Insider for reviews and industry coverage. And Matt, why don't you go ahead and tell them how to get to your podcast?
Well, we are just Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns podcast. You can go to geeksgadgetsandguns.com, or you can check us out, wherever fine podcasts are found. And of course, the video portion to show off what I actually did to demonstrate some of the drawbacks of this optic. You can find that on my YouTube channel. That's LFD Research. You can just find that at lfdresearch.com.
Awesome. So thank you guys for joining me on the show, and I hope to see everyone else on the next podcast on next week. Shoot safe, and I'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye,
Yeah.
Felicia.